I'll tell you, for those of you that know me, I first started running for this office, the seed was planted back in 2017. And still to this day, whenever I hear commissioner, you know, I kind of think, where's Mike Strain? It's kind of taking to get a little used to there. Look, I'm excited to be your commissioner of insurance, and as Will said, yes, it's a tackle, it's a project. You all live it, you all know it. You're dealing with it either in your lives, as individuals, family households, or your businesses. You know, and as we heard our panel up here talking about with Susie and Susan, you know, talking about their jobs and helping drive economic growth, I want you to know that I'm looking forward to the partnership with them. A lot of you may not know this, but Susan was on a trip with us to London last year in December. She didn't know it was a job interview at the time, but I want to let you know that she did a great job. She understands the economic challenges that you as businesses face as it relates to insurance, and she played a key role in helping conversations we had with insurance and reinsurance companies. So let me just, a brief rundown on where we are and what we're doing, and many of you already know this. Louisiana is the most unaffordable state in America for insurance. That means we spend more of our hard-earned dollars on insurance than any other state. Those of you trying to recruit people to come to Louisiana and work in Louisiana, you're facing the challenge of telling somebody, move to our state, and your auto insurance doubles. Move to our state, and your homeowner's insurance is going to triple. I mean, those are challenges that are insurmountable right now. You know, you've got your economies, you've got your finances you've got to deal with, but you can't just say, come here, and oh, by the way, we're going to offset that cost. And so I want you to know that the Department of Insurance, we understand the importance that unaffordability plays in your success as a business. And like I said, we're working, you know, looking forward to working with Susan and with Susie to help bring about some change there. October, let me start back. August 2020, Hurricane Laura. And then shortly after, Delta, Zeta, ending in Ida. 4 hurricanes, 2 of the strongest ever recorded in Louisiana, 12-month, 2-day period. 800,000 property claims. $23 billion paid or reserved on a book of business that collected $2 billion. For the CFOs in the company, you know what that means. You know, you collect 2 and you pay out 23. The market's upside down right now. But fortunately, for many of you in this room and around the state, the insurance companies you were with did the right thing. They had the right financial reserves. They had the proper levels of reinsurance purchased, and they survived that. But for a lot that didn't, we had 12 companies go insolvent. Over 100,000 claims have now gone from the standard market to Louisiana Citizens, the market of last resort, the one that you and I all own together as citizens. So there's a bit of a challenge there on the homeowner side. You know, in addition to that, we've got a commercial trucking crisis that many of you have been dealing with for years. You know, as I travel the state, you know, the horror stories that you hear of, you know, the logging industry, for example. They get quotes of $25,000 per unit from only one insurer that's willing to write the risk. You know, the men and women that operate those, they can't drive those vehicles long enough, fast enough, you know, hard enough to make money to pay for the insurance, much less maintenance, fuel, employee costs, trying to put a little bit back for their business and themselves. It's strangling the economy in our state, and that's just the logging industry. It applies to any and every business that drives a truck. Yesterday I was in Lake Charles talking to the Louisiana Port Association. I know a few of you are in here today, so if I say some things, just eat your dessert. You know, but it is. Any vehicle that rolls that's owned by a business is commercial auto, and it's strangling the economy there too. And so again, I just want you to know that the Department of Insurance, we understand the challenges that you face from an economic standpoint, and we're working hard every day. So what do we do? Well, let's agree on a couple of basic facts, if you will. One, insurance is a promise to pay. And insurance companies are in the business of paying claims. 2, litigation should never be a substitution for the claims process. And in Louisiana, that's what it's become. You know, 3 companies, just like every company in this room, insurance companies, they don't have to do business in Louisiana. They decide to do business in Louisiana. They decide where they want to take their stockholder investment or their individual investors' money and deploy it. And right now in Louisiana, it's a tough place to make that argument that they want to do business in Louisiana. And there's a couple of factors for that we'll get into. And the fourth, and the governor said it up here about business. Businesses have to make a profit. And in insurance, they have to make a profit too. The ones that don't go insolvent. And so we've got to make sure that we create a stable environment where companies have a fair chance to make a fair profit. Not excessive, but a fair chance. And right now, that's the challenge that we have in Louisiana. So, with that in mind, let's talk about why Louisiana's had a hard time attracting, right? We experience a high level of catastrophic events in Louisiana. South Louisiana, like I said, we've had hurricane after hurricane for over a 12-month period. North Louisiana, hailstorms, you know, even Lake Charles after Laura, they had a flood and a freeze. So Louisiana does have more than its fair share of that. We also have a poor regulatory environment as compared to our neighboring states. And I'll give you an example. Prior to January 8th, if you were an insurance entity, someone that's regulated by the department, an adjuster, an agent, a broker, if you called the Department of Insurance and you asked how the department was to interpret a regulatory, a regulation that we have to follow, you were told, we can't tell you. Go hire an attorney, go hire a lobbyist, figure it out, operate the way you think it is, and we'll let you know if it's right or wrong. It's punitive. It's not the way that business should operate. It's not the way that a regulatory environment should operate. So January 9th, when you call and you ask how the department interprets a regulation, we're going to tell you how we're going to interpret a regulation. We're not going to give you legal advice, but we're going to tell you how we're going to hold you, to what level we're going to hold you accountable. We're trying to create that stable, environment there. Legal, you heard me say it earlier, litigation should never be a substitution for handling, the regular process of handling a claim, adjusting a claim. And we're going to bring legislation, and we're working with some good members here in the House and the Senate, and I've had some conversations with the governor. I was very honored to be co-chair of his insurance crisis task force. We came up with some good solutions. We were just a task force that Chairman Talbot chairs with regards to auto insurance. Some of those, we're going to adopt those. We're going to bring some legislation to address that. Like I said, on the regulatory side, and I've got to apologize, normally I just riff, and I've got a great group of people I work with, and they wrote a couple of things that they said I need to mention here. So we're going to allow insurers, like other businesses, to change their prices as needed instead of once a year. We were the only state that allowed, that held companies to that standard. We're going to introduce legislation to reform the 3-year rule, which makes Louisiana the only market on the planet that doesn't allow an insurance company to make changes to ensure that they are effectively managing their risk. We're the only environment, the only regulatory authority on the planet that tells a company, once you've done business with somebody for 3 years, you have to keep doing business with them. It's just, that is not free market, and it seriously inhibits companies from wanting to come and do business in the state. We're going to move from prior approval of rates to file and use, which has helped speed to market. We'll provide more resources or more helpful response to industry and consumers about how we interpret the laws and regulations, which I mentioned. We're going to allow insurers to self-report and address minor market conduct violations. Right now, everything is just heavy-handed. As I say, right now, prior to January 8th, everybody, it was a hammer looking for a nail. We're going to change that. And then just a few other things. We're going to clarify the additional living order. Some of you may have been impacted by that after Ida. We're going to get rid of profit caps. The department had an internal desk rule that told insurance companies how much money they could make. Not you, the consumer, but the commissioner. That's not free market. That's not how that should work. So we're actively engaged in some of those internals. Some of those we're going to have to do through legislation. The fortified roof program, I think many of you have heard that. As you know, our population lives close to the coast. We've got a working coast. Most of our population is on I-10 or south of I-10, which means most of our insured properties are on I-10 or south of I-10, exposed to hurricane winds. The fortified roof program is designed to help mitigate against future hurricane damages. If we're going to live close and we're going to build close, we need to make sure that the properties there, the properties that are built, are able to withstand hurricanes as they come in, or better withstand hurricanes. And so the fortified roof program, we're going to continue to ask for funding for that, but we're also going to ask that building codes be improved so that people that do build and live along the coast are better situated for their home to be there after a storm, for their roof to stay on, their contents to stay dry. That helps the claim be a lower amount at the end of the day, but it also helps that person get back in their home and that community get back up and running faster. We've got a list of, again, some legislation that we wanted that we want to work on, but I think I've mentioned most of those. I can just tell you that I'm excited about the opportunity. I know, I'm looking forward to working with our governor. I was speaking to somebody earlier today, and I'm going to use the word that they said. We've got the right people in the right seats on the bus. We've got a governor that's going to help with reform as regards to abuse of the legal system. Y'all heard from our legislative leaders earlier today. I think their head and their hearts and their minds are in the right spot on how to support insurance reform. We've got a whole group of new legislators in addition to returning legislators that everybody was elected on insurance reform, whether they admit it or not. It's the #1 item in this state. We've got Susan, we've got Susie. Like I said, I'm looking forward to that. Will and I have had conversations at the level with LABI and other associations to working on insurance reform package. And from what I'm told, it's the first time in several years that you've got all of these stakeholders sitting in the same room, agreeing on most of the things that need to be done. And so maybe I'm just a little optimistic, or maybe too optimistic, that we're going to get a lot of good things done, but I'm excited, and I think you need to be too. And I'm going to ask you, reach out to the men and women here that you elected. Tell them that you want and expect insurance reform. We're going to bring some packages, and look, if it doesn't work, blame me. Don't blame the men and women that vote on the legislation that I ask you to support. Blame me, but we're going to bring it. But we need their votes, we need their support, and we're going to ask the legislative leadership to make sure that we try and get these things introduced early in the session. March 11th is fast, but just for those of you that, we'll get a little wonky here, but for those of you not familiar with the insurance and the reinsurance world on the property market, most of the reinsurance renewals are coming up in London and Bermuda and elsewhere around the globe, June and July 1st. If we do what needs to be done, if we make the reforms that they're watching to see if we're paying attention and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, if we make those changes, I think that what you'll see is that companies that go, and Louisiana Citizens is a good example, they're in the reinsurance market right now. If we can make these changes early in the legislative process, those reinsurance companies will factor that into their rates. I'm not going to tell you that your rates are going to go down, so you're not going to get that quote. But what we're trying to do is moderate the increase. And once we can moderate the increase and start to get it level, and these companies start to come back in, that's when that availability will drive the affordability number down. And that's what we want, and that's what we need, and that's what I'm asking you for. So please encourage everybody you know that pushes a button, yes or no, to help support insurance reform. So I think I was the last speaker. I know Will said he's buying drinks for everybody at the bar. Thank y'all very much.